with a series of motions. In fact, there'll be 7 motions regarding bylaw number 109-10. This is the one that there are only 5 councillors eligible to participate in these votes. Councillor DePlacy, Councillor Harris, Councillor Johnson, Deputy Mayor Quinn, and Councillor Ross Robinson. The others, including myself, we were not present for the public hearing, so we cannot vote on this process. So I will ask if there is a member of council who was here who would make the first motion. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I move the bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw, be now read a second time by title in both official languages.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw.
Arrêté numéro 109, trait d'union 10, arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté numéro 109, intitulé Arrêté du plan municipal de la ville de Miramichi.
Thank you. The second motion, Councillor Harris.
I move that bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw, be now read in its entirety in both official languages.
And the seconder for that motion, Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw. Under the authority vested in it by the Community Planning Act, the Municipal Council of the City of Miramichi duly convenes and acts as follows. Number 1, bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw is hereby amended as follows. A. Schedule A, entitled Future Land Use Map, is hereby amended by changing the designation of the subject property bearing PIDs 4017-0391, 4017-0409, 402-93581, and 4018-0515, located at 390 Radio Street, Miramichi, from residential to industrial, as shown in Schedule A10, forming part of this bylaw. This bylaw shall come into effect on the date of its filing in the Registry Office for the County of Northumberland as required by the Community Planning Act of New Brunswick.
Arrêté numéro 109, trait d'union 10, arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté numéro 110, intitulé Arrêté du plan municipal de la ville de Miramichi. En vertu du pouvoir que lui confère de la loi de urbanisme, le conseil municipal de la ville de Miramichi, dûment convoqué, indique que ci suite 1. L'arrêté numéro 109, intitulé Arrêté du plan municipal de la ville de Miramichi, est par le présent modifié comme suite. A. L'annexe A, intitulé Carte de l'utilisation future des terrains, est par le présent modifié en changeant la désignation de la propriété visée par la NID 401-70391, 401-70409, 402-93581 et 401-80515, situé au 390 rue Radio à Miramichi, de résidentiel à industriel, comme indiqué à l'annexe A10, faisant partie de cet arrêté. Le présent arrêté entrera en vigueur à la date de son dépôt au bureau d'enregistrement de comté Northumberland, comme l'exige de la loi sur l'urbanisme du Nouveau-Brunswick.
Thank you. Merci. We'll now move to the fourth motion on the matter. Councillor Harris. The third. Oh, apologies. Thank you. The third.
I move the bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw, be now read for the third time by title in both official languages.
Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 109-10, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 109, City of Miramichi Municipal Plan bylaw.
Arrêté numéro 69, trait d'union 10, arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté numéro 69, intitulé Arrêté du plan municipal de la ville de Miramichi.
Thank you. And now the fourth motion, Councillor Harris.
I move that bylaw number 110-18, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 110, City of Miramichi zoning bylaw, be now read a second time by title in both official languages.
Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 110-18, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 110, the City of Miramichi zoning bylaw.
Arrêté numéro 110, trait d'union 18, arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté numéro 110, intitulé Arrêté de zonage de la ville de Miramichi.
And the next motion, number 5, Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Whereas Three Rivers Construction Limited has applied to amend Schedule A zoning map of the City of Miramichi zoning bylaw number 110 to change the zoning designation from single or two-unit dwelling R2 to business/light industrial BLI for subject property described as PIDs 401-70391, 401-70409, 402-93581, and 401-80515 located at 390 Radio Street in the City of Miramichi to allow the operation of construction business on the subject property. And whereas City Council wishes to impose reasonable terms and conditions upon said rezoning if it is granted, be it resolved that any rezoning of PIDs 401-70391, 401-70409, 402-93581, and 401-80515 granted in response to the above noted application be subject to the following terms and conditions pursuant to Section 59 of the Act. 1. That the uses permitted on the subject properties be limited to the following list and the supporting definitions mentioned within Section 3B zoning bylaw of the report. A, construction industry. B, manufacturing facility. C, office. D, outdoor storage associated with main use. E, uses permitted with the HC zone excluding residential uses, hotels, motels, or inns. And F, warehouse including associated retail sales. 2, the screening be provided between subject property PID 402-93581 and adjacent property PID 401-71530, subject property PID 401-70409 and adjacent property PID 401-71530 and subject property PID 401-80515 with adjacent properties PID 401-7530, 405-48265, 401-69575, 401-70425, 401-70508, 401-69575, and 401-69567. In summary, that screening will be provided in all areas of the subject properties that border residential uses. 3, that Radio Street only be permitted as an entrance to the properties and Alexander Street only be permitted as the exit from the properties. The entrance on Radio Street shall be reduced to a maximum width of 10 meters to prevent vehicles from exiting onto Radio Street.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, Councillor Harris.
No, Sam has his hand.
Oh,
Go
well,
ahead.
as the
I'll speak last.
Yeah.
That's fine.
you get to speak first and last.
Okay, first.
Yeah.
Just on number 3, I just, speaking to some property owners around there, I guess, and speaking to the people that have made the application, Alexander Street seems to be an issue with a lot of them. I think Alexander Street, at short should have a no left turn. People that were here a few weeks ago, most of them do live on Francis Street. And when you do take a quick left and take a quick right, you're right on Francis. And I guess that's where the kids are playing. And so that would be something, if we could look at. Also, I don't think the exit on Alexander Street would have to be used daily. I think it can be used if they do need to haul something out by a trailer or anything like that. Would come out Alexander onto Radio. Radio has been used for 50 years there at Dorn's, and they had a lot more traffic, I think, in and out of Radio Street at their exit than this business will ever have. And so if there's a hope for a motion, I guess, to change that, I know it's got to be unanimous to change that. I do believe this will pass tonight, but I'd like to see that change on there anyway, just for the safety of the kids, where it was brought up to us, and the people living around there. Also, speaking to the owners, I think, time frames for work, I think they spoke, they may work a couple Saturdays during the year. I think Saturdays probably can be put, you know, if we can put it in there that no work is done there on Saturdays, unless it's maintenance of themselves, putting the fence around. You know, it's the same as at your own house. If you're building your patio on a Saturday, well, you got to expect that. But I think they would do work on, you know, to better their property on Saturdays, but not maybe to build baby barns. And I know there's a talk out there that, you know, the company's looking to build tiny homes there. I don't believe that's the case. I think people should have should rest easy on that, knowing the owners and speaking to them. You know, I take their word for what they're telling me, and I think it's a business that can thrive there. But tonight, I'd like to see the entrance for Alexander Street be changed to a minimum no left turn, but maybe only used for if you're hauling a trailer out to get onto Radio Street, because I know coming over the hill there with a trailer would be too hard coming out onto Radio from the said property. But I don't know, I have to make a motion for that, but I'll let everyone speak first, I guess, and before I change the motion.
Yeah, you would have to make a motion to amend.
Yeah.
And whether you do that now or later, everybody would still get an opportunity to speak to the original motion.
Okay, so whatever you want me to do.
If you'd like to put propose a motion to amend, I would encourage you to do it now.
So I amend that Radio Street would be permitted for an entrance and exit, and Alexander Street would have a no left turn, plus any trailers would have to exit onto Alexander Street, onto Radio Street. If you understand that, Mike?
Yeah, I'd like to ask just staff to make sure that they're clear with what you're asking.
It would probably be easier instead of changing the wording, because I understand you don't want to change the wording that's in number 3. You want to add something to it. And perhaps wording such as, there shall be no left turn exit permitted by cars or half-ton trucks onto Alexander Street would take care of your, okay? So if that wording would work, if the clerk, you'd have to make that motion and get council consent to that amendment. And the second one, I think, was wording such as there shall be no, and I think I talked to you, is it retail on Saturday morning that you don't want, or?
Yeah. Obviously, you can always upgrade your own property. It's your property, right? If you want to go in to build anything, you can do that, but no retail work.
Or is it the fabrication on the property?
Fabrication, that's a good word. Fabrication.
Yeah, so there shall be no fabrication on the property on Saturdays or on weekends, on Saturdays or Sundays. Rhonda? So you have 2 proposed amendments, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, so do you wish to table both of the proposed amendments as one amendment or as separate amendments?
Easier to do, add paragraph 4 and then add paragraph 5.
Okay. Go with
That's
Mike.
easiest.
So 2 separate
clean,
motions? Okay. So the first motion to amend, Madam Clerk, could you read that back for us?
I believe that it would be no left-hand turns, or sorry. No left turn only for, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll do.
Yeah,
Wrote
no
was there
left-hand turn, I have.
No left turn exit permitted onto Alexander Street by cars or half-ton trucks.
Okay, and is that an addition to
That's number 4.
term number 3, or that's term number
That's
4?
term number 4.
Okay, so the motion is to add a term and condition number 4 as the manager has just dictated, which is no left turns by
Exits.
cars and
Exits. No left
no
turn
left turn
exits
exits.
permitted onto Alexander Street by cars or half-ton trucks.
So that is the proposed amendment from Councillor Harris. Is there a seconder for his amendment? No. A point of order? Yeah. So you, Councillor Ross Robinson?
Thank you. He did say that he wanted Radio Street to be 2 ways. Is that not what you said, Councillor Harris?
Yeah,
Yeah, because in the proposed amendment, that was not indicated.
It was,
So I believe the proposed amendment should say that the Radio Street be that 2-way access and be permitted, and that on Radio or Alexander Street, no left turns on exit unless you're hauling a trailer.
Okay, in that case, I would suggest that this become a revision to term number 3, because otherwise, if it's added, term 3 and term 4 would conflict. Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Harris has proposed to amend term number 3 as dictated by Councillor Ross Robinson. Is there a seconder for that proposed amendment? Deputy Mayor Quinn. On the question, now, would anybody, this is on the question of the proposed amendment. Would anybody, not the overall, would anybody like to speak regarding the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? So the motion passes unanimously, as it is required to do.
No.
No, okay, sorry, getting ahead of myself there. So then, Councillor, you had a second amendment you wanted to propose?
Just for fabrication time, like it's no work on Saturdays and Sundays yet for fabrication, I think Mike had said. So.
I think the proper wording may be there shall be no fabrication on the subject property on Saturdays or Sundays.
And this would be added as a term and condition number 4. No, 4, because the first motion revised term number 3. It was not a 4th. Yeah. So, because it's important, like, this is a public meeting on television here. I would like to clarify, and I want to make sure you understand, Mr. Manager. We couldn't add his proposed amendment as item 4 because it would have conflicted with item 3, because one would have said that Radio Street had to be only an entrance, and one said that it was fine.
As I understood it, the amendment didn't mention Radio Street. It was
did.
clearly
So,
saying Alexander Street.
The amendment that was voted on, I'm going to ask Councillor Ross Robinson to dictate it again, please, because
I meant the Councillor Harris's motion.
You know, but if it enter and exit on Radio Street.
Councillor Harris's motion was dictated by Councillor Ross Robinson.
Okay.
So Councillor Ross Robinson, would you please repeat the motion that was just voted on?
Yes, that Radio Street would be permitted as a two-way entrance and exit to the properties, and that Alexander Street be permitted as the exit from the properties with no left turn, with the exception of vehicles hauling a trailer.
No left turn, with the exception of people.
Yeah, and that was a motion to revise term number 3. It was not a motion to add a term number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now this current motion, the proposed motion to is also now to add a 4th term. And Councillor, then can you please repeat your current motion to amend?
To have no fabrication on the weekends.
To have no fabrication on the subject property on weekends.
There shall be no fabrication on the subject property on Saturday.
And this would be, if this passes, it will be added into the original motion as a 4th term and condition. So now, is there a seconder for this proposed amendment? Councillor DePlacy. So now the proposed amendment is on the floor. Would anyone like to speak regarding the proposed amendment? Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will not be in support of this proposed amendment. While it's all fine and dandy for whoever owns the property now to dictate that we're not going to work on Saturdays and Sundays, but I don't believe that I don't think it's wise for us to make a decision that on that property that no one ever work on Saturday or Sunday, so no.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? So motion carries. So now we go back to the original motion as amended twice. So number 3 has been revised, and number 4 has been added regarding not allowing fabrication there on the weekends. So back to the original motion, Councillor Harris spoke, no one else spoke, so I would open the floor now on the question of the original motion as revised, if anyone would like to speak on the motion. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for the proposed amendments to my colleague. I think they're innovative, and in an effort to help try to move this ahead in reasonable fashion, I truly do appreciate those efforts. I'm struggling with this, and the reason I'm struggling with it is that the nature in and of itself of the motion, from what I understand, the zoning designation is going to be changed from single or two dwelling unit to that of light industrial. So I have to question, after hearing the residents, as to whether or not I would want a light industrial business next to my home or on my street in my neighborhood. Now, I know that I don't live in that neighborhood, and it is true, and I have heard arguments on both sides, that there have been industrial-type businesses in the vicinity of that neighborhood now for quite some time. But I've also spoke to the fact that that neighborhood has evolved over time, and after hearing from the residences, I'm struggling with the fact that we'd have a construction and manufacturing facility in such close proximity to a residential neighborhood. It had nothing to do with the business. The business, look, if anybody is going to go there, this business is probably, and we're going to go with a light industrial choice, this business is probably, as to quote the Jack Nicholson movie, as good as it gets. But that having been stated, if we have to try and, contort ourselves and come up with all types of amendments in order to make it work, I question if it's well placed to begin with. And I just can't support it, because I can't support the change in zoning so close to the residents of Francis Street, particularly in Alexander Street. I know it's a short street, but still, those families there, Radio Street, I know it's a thoroughfare in Newcastle, it's always busy. It's got nothing to do with the business. It's a tough one for me, but in good conscience, I'm a nay on the change of rezoning for those reasons.
Okay. Is a point of order?
Just the motions before
Yeah.
before council is on the conditions, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point
Yeah,
out.
there's a motion. The motion on the floor is not actually specific to the rezoning itself. It's to conditions that would be applied to the next vote, which is on rezoning. Yeah. Yeah.
This next council, 6 and 7.
Is the process, yeah. Yes, thank you. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly speak from the chair, not on the content of this one, because I wasn't here and I want to respect that, although I certainly have thoughts. But I raised this point in a closed meeting, and I want to raise it publicly regarding term number 1, which came from PRAC and the Service Commission. And I think we have to change the way that these rezonings come forward. Rather than rezoning for only the specific use of the applicant right now, and this kind of builds on Councillor Ross Robinson's point a minute ago, this is a process that takes a lot of time, a lot of staff time, which costs us money. And, as it relates to an overall zoning, if there are items in this light industrial zoning that the PRAC and the Service Commission feel are unsuitable for this property, let's list the things that you can't do, not a specific list of the things that you can do. Because what this means is that if this property gets rezoned and then gets sold to a new business in 2 years, they are going to have to come back here, and we're going to have to do the whole thing again when council has already identified that we're fine with it as light industrial. Or in this case, maybe not. But the point is general. We shouldn't be so restrictive with the only allowing these exact things on the property. It sort of works against the business community from my perspective, and it creates more work for everybody when there's plenty of other work that we could be doing. So just wanted to make that general point from a process perspective publicly. And now, Councillor Ross Robinson, you did want to speak on the motion.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to wait until the next motion, and perhaps I can provide Councillor Johnson with some context, and we'll work on it next motion.
Okay, thank you. So as it relates to this motion, I see no further lights, so we will call the vote. on the motion as amended, twice in fact. All those in favor? Opposed? So motion carries unanimously? Doesn't matter, okay. Okay,
If you could do motion 7 before 6 now.
to do,
So maybe I can advise council.
yeah,
In light of council's change to the conditions put by PRAC under the Community Planning Act, if council does not accept the views of PRAC, the rezoning will not go through unless you are now unanimous, all 5 people. It's a majority, it is a majority of the entirety of council becomes the rule. Since there are 5 there, for the zoning to go through, rezoning to go through, your next motion, which I would suggest is number 7, not number 6, you have to be unanimous, or it's deemed by law to be no rezoning. And then by motion 6 won't be necessary. So if there's any questions about that
okay.
interpretation,
is there any, anyone against going to motion 7 first? Okay, so then I'll ask if there's someone, a member of council willing to make motion number 7. Councillor Harris?
I move that bylaw number 110-18, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 110, City of Miramichi zoning bylaw, be now read for the 3rd time by title in both official languages and enacted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ross Robinson. And on the question, Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Worship. I'll be speaking in favor of the motion. So back in 2017, 2018, we did a sweeping, we did a pile of zoning changes under our municipal plan. And that property was originally, I believe, could have been light industrial, heavy industrial, whatever it was. So that business was there and it wasn't running at that time. And we did a sweeping change of a whole bunch of zones at that time, and that one was changed to residential. Part of the reasoning behind that at that time was that there was a fear that somebody else was going to take over that property and the same type of business that was there previously was going to happen again. And, you know, from the public hearing that we had, the people that spoke not in favor of the rezoning were people that are fearful, in my mind, of the same type of business that was there before to happen again. And that type of business was a noisy business, and it was a steady business. There was traffic in and out all day long. When the applicant made their case to build their business, they, you know, the business that they're building is not going to be a machine shop. It's not going to be a facility or a plant, so to speak. It's going to be a place where the employees go and they pick up their trucks and then they go on to the work site for the day. So there won't be a whole lot of traffic in and out of there every day the way that their business plan is laid out. I do believe that they are going to clean up that property properly. Say that 3 times fast. And, you know, and that is the nature of their business, to make things beautiful and better and to be effective, I guess. So I think while it's difficult for the people who live there to trust that it's not going to be noisy and smelly and difficult as it was before, it's one of those things that I believe that the applicant will make good use of that property, and it will make probably make the values of the properties around there improve, because it's going to improve the aesthetics of that area, and I believe it's going to be manned all the time. There's going to be a staff there. I believe it'll be safer in the long run if we do permit the development, and so I will be voting yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor DePlacy.
I appreciate the point Councillor Ross Robinson made, and that's exactly it. When that was done, it was done on such a broad, high level that it was not, because we were lobbied at that time by the neighbors to like make sure a Dorn's recycling dirty enterprise never happens again, which in principle we agreed with. So on a broad level, you're like, okay, what do we change it to? And the other mandate of the municipal reforms at the time, or the municipal plan review, I should say, was more housing. So, of course, the R2 designation comes top of mind. If on a level, I think at the time, if we were to say, okay, let's go into light industrial and put some limitations on that, but that was not the exercise. It was not an exercise of saying, let's go into the details of a zoning and say, yes, but no, yes, but no. It was on a broad level. Those changes were made. with, again, I think the hopes of inciting some type of residential development there. But the fact of the matter, a developer hasn't come along and built an apartment building. A developer has come along and built a good business for the community and the neighborhood, and that's their intentions. I believe their intentions are pretty true, and I think what's laid out here in terms of restrictions, although might be too tight in terms of the long kind of the process of it all, are very much in line with the character of the neighborhood. We've heard that opinion endorsed by the planning staff, and I think if I go back to the intentions of the municipal plan review, we're not far off responding to what we were asked to do at the time, which was to never allow a dirty type of industry to kind of pop into that neighborhood again. Being involved in both decisions, I feel very confident that we're in line with the initial changes, which was to move it to a residential zoning. But really the purpose of moving it to a residential was to ensure to the neighbors that it wouldn't be a heavy industrial metal fab type of process in plant that it was. And I don't think we're doing that. We're keeping our promise that was made in the initial municipal plan review. So happy to see any development that has the nature or the best interest of the community at heart. And again, I believe it does fit the character of the neighborhood, and again, endorsed by not only PRAC but the planning staff. So happy to support it.
Yeah, and just actually one point of order clarification. This property was rezoned to residential in 2012, which was actually 2 municipal plan updates ago by a previous council. And at the time, it's worth noting they did not notify the property owners that they had rezoned those properties. When we did some blanket rezonings in our review in 2020, we did notify property owners, and this was discussed as property, but our decision was to leave it at residential at that time. It had already been changed in 2012. So I just wanted to make sure that we had the accurate information out there for the public record. It does still speak to the comments you both made. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just allow me just a few seconds here. I will be supporting, voting in support of this. It's hard to vote against development and progress, but mindful of the neighborhood and trusting in the applicants to adhere. And just might, in the spirit of what you said, Your Worship, and Councillor DePlacy alluded to it as well, the process, there is some ambiguity. It's tight. You mentioned the staff and resources. Maybe it's time to have a little look in-house here on the way that we work with PRAC, or PRAC works with us, and maybe getting it more in-house on our own and getting aligned in the progress of the city, both residentially and commercially so. So I'll just take that opportunity to throw that out there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Quinn. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank
no,
you.
Hey,
Sure.
sorry, has he spoken already on the motion? No, but if you speak, it closes debate. So I do want to ask Councillor Johnston if you'd like to speak before I give the floor to Councillor Harris, which will end the debate on the motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just if the designation does not change, it stays residential, thereby making that property open only to residential development. Is that true?
Yes, that would be accurate.
Thank you. And Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I understand where Councillor Johnson's coming from, the phone calls and stuff, and when you drive by the property, the way I see it now, since Dorn's closed, it's getting worse every year, and no one's fixing it up, and it's a bad looking corner lot when you drive down or drive up. I mean, there's already industrial around that area. It's a lot heavier than what's proposed by the said owners of the property that are looking at it. I do believe they're going to clean it up. They're a local company, so I take their word. I mean, the people that have the property for sale, they're going to sell that property, and it's going to be back in front of us again, and it could be something that's not exactly what we want, but at the end of the day, you know what, these people have the right to sell this property, and it will come back again, and something's going to happen to that property over the next few years, obviously, because it's a well-established property on a well-established street. So I do believe, and I take the word of the owners, that they are going to clean this up, and I think it's going to be good for that area, and I think it's something that does work. It does go to the municipal plan, And, getting to the mayor's point with the mayor, something, I do believe it's probably time the council does start looking at maybe, PRAC and the planning commission, more in-house than what we have today, that we do get to put the right, the do's and the don'ts on certain aspects. So I do appreciate that comment, but I will support this evening.
Thank you, Councillor. So everyone has spoken. I will call the vote on motion number 7. All those in favor? Opposed? So despite a 4-1 vote, the motion is defeated. Is that how?
The motion is defeated, and I would suggest it makes motion 6 moot, because it would not make sense to change your municipal plan to show that property as industrial and then have your zoning map show it as residential. So the rezoning process, I would suggest, ends at this point without bylaw, our motion number 6 being put to council.
Okay. So we would move on now to the next series of motions on a new item?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item is another amendment to bylaw 109 on another unrelated